Well, I think Pickvan is ready already because we had a bit of a longer break, so we're jumping straight into the action. JDG start off with an Udyr pick. They actually banned out the Samira, interestingly, and 2 supports. So there are basically no jungle bans coming in. Things like the Pantheon are still available here, though.
Yeah, I would actually imagine that they're going to try and put a fairly high priority on towards the Pantheon, especially Beishang. Beishang in 2021 has been more so about setting up his lanes. His KDA at 15 is super, super high, whereas his CSD and stuff isn't that high. So I think we're certainly going to be looking to see a more aggressive style from Beishang coming into this. But Udyr already picked up the Varus locked in here against the Senna. So not going back towards something like the Zaya or anything like that we've seen before. They're actually going to be looking potentially at going towards at least the poke Varus that we have seen before. Now you're getting the likes of this Azirin as well. This could be a pretty poke heavy team coming in from JDG right now.
Well, this is the exact Varus comp that we saw last. I forget who played it, but there was a team that played.
It was
this.
BLG.
It was BLG, was it? But I remember it actually working wonders, surprisingly well.
Yeah.
The Olaf finally comes through, so one of those priority junglers snagged by WE before we go to the second ban phase. But definitely some power picks on both sides. As WE, what are you expecting them to ban out here? Because I feel like maybe the Jace could be a good option.
Definitely something like the Jace. And I think on WE side as well, you're looking towards a champion at least that can start these engages off. You need something like the Ornn for Breathe in that top lane. So I think getting rid of champions that can have a field day with Ornn but also fit into this style of composition that JDG has could work very well. We'll have to see though as they start to go on, because the Camille is actually the ban away from JDG, whereas on WE side, I suppose they're kind of looking and going, hey, you know what, realistically, Zoom hasn't played a huge amount of these more, carry-orientated champions. He's more focused on like the Nars, the Renekton's, the Aatroxes, so getting those off the table instead, and just seeing if they can operate their comp within this.
So WE gonna ban the Seraphine, so nothing focusing towards Zoom on that top side, and obviously that Aatrox ban gonna be there, but he still has a lot of options to go for. The Camille been taken away from Breed though, which if you think back to last year, it was Fiora and Camille. They were the 2 massive picks for Breed back when he was called Curse on OMG, so you can still see that same priority because he knows how to carry a game. But Leona gonna be the final ban coming through from JDG here.
I'm curious to see if WE leave this counter pick for Breathe. I think you could wait and see exactly what Zoom wants to go, because if Zoom falls back towards something like the Renekton that's still open, you can always opt in towards something like the Gangplank, and it still at least puts a little bit of a slow on towards JDG with the Cannon Barrage if they want to try and operate at this long range, but I have to see what they decide to go with. Jotmung is hovering the Gragas here now. Still the flexibility there to send that towards topside or in towards the support role, so at least they do get the little bit of flexibility there with them.
Yep, so the Gragas, very, very flexible, as you say, can go wherever they fancy. Does well into that Renekton, so you could just give that to Breed if this Renekton is locked in inside of JDG. I will say the Renekton definitely not really fitting into the poke style composition that we talked about before, but can function as a frontline at least.
Okay, so it looks like what JDG are trying to do here is not just operate fully on the hey, let's play far back, let's keep people at bay. It's more operating on the let's use this long range to get an advantage, and then we can, if you try and get in on top of us as WE, we've got the Renekton, Udyr, Rel that are all enabled as soon as you jump in on top of us.
Alright, Gnar comes on through, so it will be the Gragas in the support position, unless it's support Gnar, which I doubt very much. I want to point out, because I don't think you guys have it on the English stream, but the Chinese fan vote right now is 70% in favor of WE. If you told me that was going to be the fan votes back last year, I would never have believed you. That WE would be a 70% fan favorite over JDG. But regardless, let's talk holistically, Dagda. What are we expecting to see from WE to start this game out? How are they going to pace this one?
Yeah, certainly for WE, I think it's trying to set up Breed for an advantage in that top lane. You'll have Beishang more than likely path up there, making sure that this Gnar can try and chip away both the Croc and the turret that's up ahead of him. And then as they start to transition in towards the mid-game point, they'll be trying to start up a couple of these dragons, seeing if they can use the fact that Senna has such a strong item spike off of the Kraken Slayer that they can try and power through. On the opposite side though, you're looking at a comp that kind of wants a little bit of time, I'd say, on JDG's side. They want to see if they can maybe help out Renekton in the top lane against the Gnar, but certainly when it comes to getting to like the 1 to 2 items where you've got like this, I'm assuming Poke Varus coming online. Same when you've got this Udyr here as well. You'll be able to do a lot more work in and around these objectives. And this has kind of been the story of JDG's compositions in 2021. A lot of the times it's more kind of like, hey, let's survive till 2 items and then we can actually go on the aggressive here. But certainly when you look at like the Renekton and the Rel, you've 2 side lanes here for Kanavi. He can play around.
Well, we're ready to jump into game number 1 here. I'm keeping my eyes on that top lane. It's Zoom versus Bree. We're onto the Rift for WE versus JDG, and I feel it in my bones, Dagda, regardless of compositions, regardless of anything. Wait, Alistair
is so cool.
That looks so cool. Composure. We're professionals, Dagda.
I'm a professional, yeah, come on.
That was really
shiny.
cool, though. But JDG versus WE, you just know this is going to be a banger. WE trying to prove themselves this year, and JDG, I mean, from the 2nd seed going to Worlds to now being this team that is faltering halfway down the standings, they need to get this win on the board before the Chinese New Year break.
Definitely. And I think the biggest thing here is looking at Kanavi to kind of be that role. We highlighted a lot of the mistakes that he has been making, but when you actually look at JDG, in most of their games, Kanavi's Udyr is banned away. So we don't know if this is something from scrims or something that people are keeping their eye on, but certainly his Udyr is feared in the LPL, so I'm excited to see now what he can do that he's got his hands on it.
The question is it feared by JDG fans? That is the big concern that I would have, because as we mentioned, we had a whole segment of Dagda ranting about it. Kanavi has gone from comfortably, or at least in the conversation of best jungler in the LPL, or one of the best junglers in the world, to at the end of 2020, he kind of fell off a cliff a little bit. I'm not entirely sure what happened. It felt like JDG sort of imploded to some extent. But in this game specifically, he's against Beishang, who has just looked exceptional. We've got a bit of a 2v2. I think this will just diffuse itself down in the bottom side. Yeah, Beishang, this year especially, but last year too, has looked like one of the top names in the LPL for the jungle, and his team has started to play around that.
Yeah, well, they were last bit as well, and you can see the same here again. I think that's why we're seeing so many tussles in this bottom side of the map, is both teams realize, hang on a second, our junglers are pathing towards this bottom side. We need to be the ones that control a bot lane so we can come over and support them if they try and end up with a tussle at this bottom side scuttle. Now, unfortunately for WE fans, Yagao on this Udyr will have a really good matchup in the mid lane. You can already see there, shoving in super hard, so he can support this endeavor for the scuttle.
Yeah, Shank's very low on HP and on mana. He's got 1 biscuit, but I don't know if that's going to quite tick the boxes. But he does have teleport available if he would really want to commit. But obviously there's a lot of minions there. It's going to be difficult. Breather, in the meantime, though, will have infinite priority in this top side, at least for the first few levels. While Zoom was obviously on the Renekton. Not great into that matchup. See Kanavi moving into the river, though. The scuttle crab that you talked about looks like Kanavi. Certainly the first one on the scene. Beishang not going to just let this one go for free. Wanders on in. He's too late. And now Kanavi is trying to chase down the Viking bear on Viking action. 1v1 in the jungle, bro. Here we go. Beishang trying to escape, but he is Olaf. He's got attack speed, and he's got some friends as well. We talked about the WE support system. Friendship and magic is there.
Well, it helps if Kanavi's kind of been a bit stupid as well, because why are you invading there? Like, you have got the scuttle. You don't need to fight. You know that you're going to have Jomung and Missing who are able to come across faster, and Kanavi just gives over everything. Like, that didn't make any sense to go for that play. Now you've got Beishang, who's reset. He's come back onto the map faster. Because of the kill, he's got that chain whip. He'll get that scuttle on top side. Beishang's delighted. You've just given him this early game lead.
And I just don't get what changed. Like, this was the team that we called the smartest team in the LPL. Here we go. Beishang wants to change things around in the mid lane. He's just going to help Shanks shove this one out so he can get a reset off here. But yeah, JDG, they were the smartest team in the LPL. This was the team that we always complimented for their intelligent gameplay. And it just feels like that's completely gone. But there was no roster change. The only thing that changed was the coach. But Chashao went to World Finals. Like, surely this isn't how he believes the game should be played.
It's really just I know that we were levying a lot of praise towards Kanavi last year, but Kelsey Moser, I know, is kind of like laughing her head off because she called this a while ago. Kanavi just was learning that, hey, if I just farm like crazy, I can outpace a lot of these other junglers and get a massive lead for myself, have this big impact in the later point of the game. It wasn't really that JDG were playing super heavily towards Kanavi, and now that other teams have realized, hey, this is how you can actually play around your jungler, that's now that JDG are starting to struggle. They haven't really got to figure out their identity. And I thought we might see Kanavi move back towards these early game champions, just try to play towards his laners instead. But unfortunately, they haven't seen that, and still a lot of these mistakes are coming in. Now they're trying to start up Dragon, but might have enough time here just because of the reset timing from Jomung and Missing to pick this one up.
We'll have to see. Beishang definitely wants to say something about it. He's hanging around. Missing is only just arriving. The Dragon's already down to 800, and Lvmao wants a fight. There's the stun onto Beishang. Does not have Ragnarok. He's not level 6. The Ignite isn't quite enough. And the heal now from Jomung. WE maybe want to punish this one as Kanavi just throws himself at the enemy. But the intimidation tactics work. Nice flash from Shanks to dodge away from Yagao Shurima Shuffle. Good disengage from WE, but the Dragon taken by JDG.
Good job from JDG to actually go for that engage. I like Lvmao taking the aggressive stance there. Gets a lot out of Beishang and actually forces the flash out of Shanks as well. I don't think Shanks needed to come across there. The play was kind of done for, and you weren't going to try and turn that fight around as WE, especially with Beishang so low. So great job from JDG. I just want to look at how Kanavi is now going to punish that mid lane flash being down. You've got that ultimate from Udyr, which will be up in about a minute and a half's time, so just let's make that play in mid lane once again and get some advantages for JDG.
And that is one of the big strengths that Udyr can have, is the strength of those ganks is sometimes kind of absurd, honestly. The amount of damage that Udyr could do while just getting a guaranteed stun is kind of obnoxious, so definitely a win condition available for JDG. But for now, at least, they'll be grabbing themselves a blue buff so that Yagao can just sit in this mid lane, just clear waves away and scale up on the Udyr. We are going to see that lethality virus that we talked about. And I think a conversation that should always be brought up when there's lethality on a team is, how does the scaling look here for JDG, Dagda? Because we've got lethality, but we also have an Udyr. I feel like it's a little bit of a grey area.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much about the scaling here on JDG's side. It's more so about how they operate in the fights. Because if you can get this poke from Yagao and Loken down, regardless of whether it's, you know, not as great when they build armor, it's still a lot of damage that's coming in, especially because it's mixed damage between the AP and the AD. So if they're able to sit back in these team fights and just get all this damage down, they're great. However, if WE can just dive bomb them, jump on top of them, that's where you're going to have issues for JDG, and that's where their team might struggle.
Well, we'll see if the dive bomb can come on through. It's certainly fun when you get to see the dive bomb kind of strategies, especially with Olaf Orianna. It's such an insanely strong 2v2 combo, but it's also such an insane teamfight combo. When you throw a Gnar into the mix as well, you've got just everyone jumping in, the shockwave spins around on top of the Gnar, slamming people into the wall. You could just eradicate an entire team in a split second. When it comes to the gold right now, we're actually totally even in this game.
It is very, very even. We're not going to see too much action, I don't think, out of the lanes. I mean, you've got a lot of scaling still on WE side that wants to come through as well, between the likes of that Senna and that Orianna, as you're talking about as well. So at the moment, it's kind of Kanavi taking advantage of the strong lanes that he has, but here's that gank we talked about.
That's the ult you talked about. Shanks doesn't have flash, but he's got a shield. And that's going to be a kill onto Yagao. Nicely turned around by Missing. The shockwave we talked about pulls him back in, and Loken falls as well. WE, they read the gank and they outplay it.
And this is what I've loved about Beishang. His ability to read what the opponent is going to do, get all the resources in the right place, the right time, and turn these plays around. Getting those kills on towards JDG is massive for WE, as Breathe goes for a bit of a trade in the top side.
Didn't have Wallop available, I think, so I thought it was going to turn into more than it did, but Breathe just bullying, as you'd expected that matchup, and it sets up WE for a Rift Herald as well.
Beautiful stuff from WE, and as WE, getting these early leads is actually going to pay off dividends later. Like, you can see here that this is Yagao going in aggressively and using that Udyr shuffle. Once that Emperor's Divide is down, though, they're free firing his WE. They're just chasing JDG down. You can see there, even with Loken using that chain of corruption, they're not really able to do very much. And when you get to those later stage team fights, because WE are building these early advantages, it's hard for JDG to try and push WE back. You've got these air wall, you've got the chains of corruption, yes, but if WE have full control of the map, they're coming in from multiple different angles. This Emperor's Divide and this Chains of Corruption isn't going to be enough to save you, especially against a rampaging Viking.
Yeah, and talking about that Viking, you can see the two men I want to talk about on your screen, Beishang and Missing. These are the two guys on WE that we've been able to praise most consistently over the last couple of years. And they're both 2-0-2 on the standings already. It's feeling real good for WE because these are the guys that are going to make the plays for the squad. Gore Drinker already in the pocket of Beishang. This is 11.2. That is still a real strong version of Gore Drinker.
Yeah, it's going to do a lot of work. And especially when you think of like the Senna coming over the back of that as well with the shields, the healing. This Viking is going to be doubly tough to take down. So expect Beishang to just keep trying to run through these advantages that he has. Now, Kanavi looking towards mid.
Shanks has been knocked back. Has flash available, but he's holding on to it. Whiffs the Shanks, man. Why didn't you flash? I feel like he could have escaped that one. He just whiffs the shockwave. He doesn't flash. He's like, you know what? We're getting the Drake. I will sacrifice my life for Aya.
So I think he realized that Kanavi had flash, and he was trying to catch right on the edge of the Orianna ball. So the further away you are from the Orianna ball, the further it whips you the opposite direction. So he could have created a massive gap there, but unfortunately, just barely misses the edge of that, and it means that the kill does go across. But again, you can see Kanavi doubling down on the advantages that they have, trying to see if they can push through Yagao's pressure in the mid lane and open up this map for JDG.
JDG have finally got themselves a kill on the board, something to work with. Kanavi wants to turn it into more. Breathe does have flash, and he's not. I'm not particularly worried about him. As I say that, his health bar does start to go down. WE want to answer in the bottom side of the map. Beishang has that Herald, and they want to kill on Loken immediately. Destroy him. Lvmao tries to re-engage the fight, but it's just not happening. That was the TP from Zoom. So now Kanavi's just at the top of the map, totally alone. Can't make any plays happen. JDG, they've answered the dive, but they still lost the kill.
Yeah, and I mean, this is actually something that Clement was talking about in the last game was, look, if you're going to try and make these trades for the Rift Herald, it's fine if you want to just trade on the opposite side of the map, but you can't be giving these kills over. So not only do they give the kills over, not only do they give the TPs, but you still got that Rift Herald. They can still make plays here as Beishang, and whenever they want, they can pop that money in towards JinDong, Shanks, or even Breathe if they want to.
Yeah, WE, honestly, they can do whatever they want at this point. They are feeling real good. And the crazy thing is, it's not like they've got this super early game composition. Look at the carries here. Orianna and Senna. It's not like they don't scale well. It's not like these guys aren't going to do well in the late game. So really, really rough start to the game from JDG. 2 plates went the way of Breathe there off the back of the TP that we saw from Zoom. And as you say, that Herald in the pocket of Beishang, but it's going to time out soon. He's heading up towards the top lane, Doctor.
Yeah, they got company though. Shanks and Missing are coming up here as well. You can see Zoom knows this is happening. He is trying to keep this wave from hitting that tower, but it means Breathe can take the 1v1.
Yeah, Breathe is happy to just brute force this one as the rest of WE churns into the top side. And you know what? With a setter up blasted across the map, everybody gets a piece of the pie. That's going to be the first tower taken by WE. What is the response is the question. It's going to be 2 plates in the mid lane by the looks of things. Yagao and Lvmao at least finding some kind of answer.
I mean, bot lane as well, right? They're actually getting quite a substantial amount of trade for this. You get 2 plates in that mid lane. I think it's 2 or 3 in the bot side as well. So, apart from the kill, it's kind of going even, honestly, from JDG's perspective. So, it's actually a nice trade. Unfortunately, though, they lose that top tower. And with the kill, maybe not as even as it first looks.
Yeah, kind of even in the amount of plates taken, but with 2 towers going down and still none falling in favor of JDG, that's a little bit of bad news coming the way of any JDG fans. The Demon Dog struggling a little bit in the early game, but we're getting towards the 15-minute mark. We're getting towards the second Drake here, Doctor. It does feel to me, as a monkey brain play-by-play, that WE are kind of running away with things here. Give me some silver linings for JDG.
Well, if I'm on JDG, this is kind of where you could be strongest, right? If you're trying to fight around these objectives and WE are already in the pit, it's so much easier for you to get these Mega Man Chain of Corruptions off. You're getting the Udyr walls are going to do a lot of work. So JDG still have options if they want to fight, and especially with Duskblade, Liandry's Anguish just completed for Yagao. They're actually okay in terms of power spikes compared to Shanks and Jomung, because yes, Jomung has that Kraken Slayer, but there's no mythic item yet completed for Shanks.
Yeah, and part of the reason for that is that he's gone for that tier early. He's also gone for a Dark Seal and a Doran's Ring. So he's got essentially 3 sort of starter items there, which will slow down your build. It's good for later on in the game. It sets you up for the future. For when he hits the 2 items, he's going to be huge. But for the time being, still a bit of a way to go. Here we go, zoom. Literally zooming there as he went over the Scuttle Crab, but can't quite find the engage. Teleport being channeled by Yagao to rejoin his team. Dragon up in 30 seconds. JDG, they love to look for picks before a Drake, but they're not going to find any this time, I fear.
They could find quite a bit of poke, though, because look at the vision control here for JDG. Like, it is everywhere. And already, Misty taking a blast from the shotgun that JDG has in their back pocket. They're trying to move Breathe down, trying to hold on to that TP, but giving this much control to JDG around the objective makes it really hard for W to get in here.
The stack up here from JDG as the arrows just being blasted out by Loken, but not able to do too much work. And this is one of the advantages of having that center on the other side. Jomung will be able to add a lot of sustain to the squad for WE. Breathe gonna grab himself a Herald. Literally no contest available from JDG, as they, I think, have realized what's going on. They're gonna start this Drake off for themselves. Now the TP being channeled by Breathe. He wants to get into this pit. They want to fight for the Drake. Breathe is about to turn mini, no. That is not the best situation. In goes the Viking. They want to fight for the Drake. Goes the way of JDG. Now the fight as well. First kill goes their direction. Still 5 strong. Is in goes Udyr. Knocks everybody back. Cuts them through as Loken blasting the arrows on through the squad. Kanavi going to try and chase down Breathe. Can they finish off? More kills on the back of this one. Stun goes on to Kanavi. Arrow on in. Comet's not enough. But JDG, they get themselves a fight.
That looked like it could have been dangerous for JDG. I saw those chains of corruption go wide from Loken, but Yagao with the hero play there, that big swoop to bring WE into the waiting hands of JDG, and suddenly this ain't looking all clear cut for WE anymore.
Yeah, this is suddenly looking a little dicier, right? We set up how far ahead they were, and then we see JDG grouping up for this fight. And the TP with Mini not really going to set Breathe up for success here.
Exactly. And you got no ult then from Breathe. The Gragas Cask doesn't really knock anyone back. And then this fantastic play from Lvmao. That's done onto the carries. Just sets up the team fight perfectly. And with Yagao sweeping in to finish them off. Gorgeous, gorgeous play from the mid and support of JDG.
And Yagao with the Shurima Shuffle. You've come to expect this kind of play from Yagao when he's playing well. Recently, it's not felt like Yagao was really on his best form, but today maybe that will change, because that's the second time in a row now that we've seen him pulling out these beautiful little Shurima Shuffles in the fights.
And again, like, this is JDG's team fight is pretty nicely set up to deal with WE. I mean, we saw it there. When you've got like the Renekton, the Udyr, this Rel as well, they're enabled super well by compositions that want to get in on top of them. And for WE, apart from Jomung, you're playing a relatively short range composition. Like, you have to get in and dirty to be able to deal your damage. So from the fact you've got these 3 melees that are enabled in that way, it works out beautifully for JDG, let alone the 2 long-range carries that you have. So from WE's side, they have to be more careful about how they're approaching these fights and not just giving over full river control before these dragons.
Interestingly, Shanks has gone for an Archangel Staff first item before going towards his Ludens or Liandry's if he feels to go that way instead. But typically, I think we've seen more Ludens than Liandry's. But over towards Jomung, we've got to look at that build, because he's on the Kraken Slayer. He's got himself the Rage Blade for kids. Once he finishes
I like the way you're
off
telling
that
kids
Rage
to play
Blade,
with
though,
knives. I feel like that's not a good thing to say at a broadcast.
Like, I've seen that one Vine where the kid has a knife and he's looking like he's having a great time. So as far as I'm concerned, based on my internet education, that is probably great, right?
Sure,
but
I'm not
I
backing
will
you up on
say-
this. You're on the sinking ship.
Senna's not a kid, okay? Just because she's got a knife for kids doesn't make her a kid, so she's okay to have the rage knife. And she certainly has some rage. I've heard her voice lines. Senna's angry.
I mean, she gets a little bit peeved, especially if she's playing against Thresh. But honestly, we've seen this rage play before. It worked super well in the Senna. So when JDG does complete that, he hits such a big power spike. Still a ways off though. WE though have the second Rift Herald, they crack open this tier 1 in the mid lane, and now that's all outer turrets down for WE. And this is where WE get dangerous. This is where they start to move in, get vision, and look for picks. Although trying to find Yagao, not quite out to get on top of him.
Yeah, Yagao's going to be able to slip away through the shadows. As JDG feel like they're pretty much in control of the map at this point. It's 4-7 in kills, but when we look at the gold, it's much more even, with only a 1,000 advantage for WE. But Ocean Drake coming up again in 1 minute's time. WE have got a few more spikes. There's the Rage Blade just finished that we just talked about. So JDG will be a lot stronger coming into this next fight.
But just look at the reset timings from WE as well. They're going to beat JDG to that dragon. And this is what I love about WE is they'll actually back a little bit sooner than most teams in the LPL will, so they can try and get this vision and try and set up correctly for these objectives. Look for those picks that we're talking about. Now, with Zoom on this bot side, having Kanavi there, they will get this bottom tower, but it does mean you're kind of split as JDG here.
That's a cheeky ward from missing. It's out of range of the control ward that was in the river brush there. I've never seen that one before, but that's I'm going to keep that one logged away in the old brain. The very old brain, as it doesn't seem to work anymore. But let's move over to the dragon here, as WE's the team that has priority right now. But these arrows from Loken are doing a lot of work to weaken up the squad. Shanks up towards the top side, being bullied out, has to go all the way around to join up with his squad.
Breathe has just hit Mega as well, so JDG are probably going to try and play this back, not give Breathe a chance for an engage.
Well, the Drake is going to just get burst down if JDG don't fight for it. There's a Chains of Corruption. Is massive missing, has to flash away. Udyr gets the Drake once again. That's 3 now. And JDG want a fight on top of it. WE, it felt like they had the advantages, but JDG say no.
Gorgeous fight again from JDG and Kanavi, the man of the hour, the guy that we have turned and said, look, you need to step up for JDG. Well, he's doing that well today, stealing away that dragon, and now JDG will turn towards the Baron.
This feels a bit more like the Kanavi that we wanted to see in the LPL, right? We set up Beishang versus Kanavi, how Kanavi was the fallen king. Last year he was the king of the jungle. This time around, it didn't feel it. Today, he is back on top. This Udyr looks great. His smites are on point. And look at that CS difference. He's 50 CS ahead.
And this is where I needed WE to pull the trigger. They had the flash on missing. At that stage, you just belly bop in, you flash onto someone, blast them back, and enable your team comp so well. But just playing this very slowly allows JDG to get so much poke down. They're able to get it, as you can even see there, from miles back with that Barras finishing off the kill. And WE get poked out. They lose the dragon, they lose the fight, and it's a disaster completely for the WWE squad.
And I have to say, this does feel a little bit like somebody's just RKOing out of nowhere, because I don't think WE were expecting the performance that we get to see from JDG today either. This is something that I've brought up a couple of times that I want to see out of JDG, this coordination, this team play, but we've not really seen it. On the side of WE though, these are the fights that they usually win. These kind of dragon skirmishes and whatnot, this is usually their bread and butter.
Well, that's the thing, is that they oftentimes kind of find these mid-game picks to solidify these strong leads and then just win the team fights with the gold advantage that they have. Against JDG here, against RNG in the past as well, they've struggled to find those picks, and when they fall behind, not having the vision control means it's really hard for them to get their game plan up and running, and you're seeing it here. JDG, they get that small lead, and they ain't letting it go.
And while we were in the replay, in case you didn't notice, JDG did grab a Baron for themselves, so they can now just fire away all day long. Loken is playing Lethality Varus. Having Baron while you're playing Lethality Varus is the best feeling in the world. You can just fire off shots. Nobody can contest you. They just have to hide under their tower and pray that you miss.
And you got a Nazir with you. You've got a Nazir that's got this big old tower behind you saying, hey, we've got this defensive bunker set up. What are you going to do about it?
Absolutely nothing is the answer, Dagda, because Missing is chucked out. He just has to run away, breathe. He's like, I'm Mega Gnar, and they're like, yeah, we don't care. Just go back to the zoo. Oh,
you're so cute when you're angry.
I know. Now to the bottom side, they got the back. I mean, JDG have everything. WE, I'm starting to lose faith that they can come back in this game.
I mean, from a JDG perspective, though, this is great to see. This is what we wanted to see. Them finding those team fights, Kanavi actually having this big impact on the Udyr. Again, Zoom on these fighters looking impeccable. Like, this is a really strong draft from JDG, and they're playing it really, really well.
And, I mean, we talked about items before. Like, we talked about how, oh, hang on, here's a pick. Kanavi knocked back. That's not a pick. What am I talking about? It's an Udyr. He just runs at the speed of light in the other direction, straps on his Nikes and sprints away. But I want to quickly revisit the items we talked about before. We were saying how we needed the 2 items for Jomung. All right, we've checked that one off. We've got the Gore Drinker and the Sterix on Beishang. Okay, check that one off. But look at the mid lane. Shanks still hasn't finished a mythic item. No wonder that they don't have any damage in these fights.
And of course, he completes it right as you say that. So he does get the Luden's Tempest. But as you said, yeah, it feels a little too late now. And Orianna is a champion that spikes really hard off of, like, well, to a certain extent off the last chapter, but definitely when she completes these 2 items. Like, this is where she comes online. So the fact that this has been delayed for so long, whereas you look at, like, the 3 items both for Loken, of course, cheaper items, but mid lane as well.
Yeah, it's been rough so far here, as Missing takes a bit of a hit from Yagao. He's pretty tanky with the Aftershock, but the Aftershock's timed out, and he's in a bit of trouble. Kanavi charging in, but he's rooted. Maybe this is a chance. They don't quite have the damage to finish him off. Jomung bullied out. This is what we're talking about, the range from JDG. Feels like no one actually has to commit to the fight for JDG to win a fight.
And your front line is so beefy. Like, you've got Kanavi there, as you said, just takes a heap of damage. He's going to peace out. He'll clear a few jungle camps, come back. But they've completely zoned WE away from this dragon, and that's Ocean Soul. Like, you have not got control of your waves right now. You haven't got control of any part of your jungle, and it's just a free Ocean Soul for JDG.
This is beautiful to see, because this feels a bit more like JDG from last year. This feels a bit more like the squad that won 2020 spring, that took Top Esports to 5 games and then finished them off. We're getting a bit of reminiscence of the map play that we got to see out of JDG back then, because they have had control of this map for the vast majority of the game. Now pushing in the bottom side. Lvmao happy to take a couple of hits to brute force an in-hit, but Jomung's arrived. WE want to defend their buildings here. They don't want to go down without fight. Zoom steps on forward to get a couple of hits in. Shots onto Missing as well. But JDG being pushed away. The railgun goes a little bit shy, but in they go. Missing, trying to get the knockback. It's onto Zoom, though. He's thrown a Renekton at the carry. That's not the way you play League of Legends, my friend. Zoom, it's his birthday, and he's been gifted 5 players on WE. Can you believe this is the way the game ends? Down they go, 1 by 1. Double kill for Zoom, who's just happily tanking double Nexus towers this entire time. Jomung forced under the grave as well, and this will be the towers going down. And you know what? Yagao didn't feel like he had enough spotlight in that fight, so he goes for a Shurima Shuffle to finish the game in style. JDG are back on form. What a way to take game number 1.
Finally, JDG show up. It has been a long time coming, but that was a confident victory from the JD line.